Good evening, buenas noches, and thank you for tuning in. On behalf of Mitchell Kaplan, Miami Book Fair, and all of us at Books and Books, I welcome you to a virtual evening with Lauren Weisberger to discuss Where the Grass is Green and the Girls Are Pretty, published by our friends at Random House. Lauren Weisberger is the #1 New York Times bestselling author of The Devil Wears Prada, which was published in 40 languages and made into a major motion picture starring Meryl Streep and Anne Hathaway. Currently, Elton John and producer Kevin McCollum are adapting The Devil Wears Prada for the stage. Lauren's 6 other novels were all bestsellers, and her books have sold more than 13 million copies worldwide. To moderate tonight's conversation, we're joined by Stephanie Sayfie Aagaard, who serves as the Collaborative Innovator General at Whitman Family Development and Bal Harbour Shops. A native of Miami, Stephanie covers the social, celebrity, fashion, sports, and charity scene in South Florida for her Steph Says column every Sunday in the Miami Herald and is a monthly contributor to Indulge magazine. Throughout this evening's broadcast, you're invited to ask questions by using the Ask a Question feature at the bottom of the screen, and we'll get to those right after the talk. And now, without further ado, I'd like to welcome our guest to the virtual stage. Hi, Steph.
Hello.
Hi, Lauren.
Hi. Thank you, Christine. I appreciate it. Lauren, it's so great to have you here. Well, I'm in Miami. I wish you were here too.
I do as well, very much so.
We've been doing this Steph Says book club too with Books and Books and with the book fair. And every month we read a different book. And this is the first time because your book just came out, which is amazing. Where the Grass is Green and the Girls Are Pretty. So everybody that hasn't read it, I feel very privileged that I've read it before many people, but now it's out. People can buy it at Books and Books online or in Bal Harbour Shops, which is great. And but we're happy to see you back. This is incredible. During the pandemic, obviously we were all doing a lot of reading. So I'm sure you were doing a lot of writing on that during that time as well.
For sure, for sure. It was, like you said, it was a strange time. Certainly to be writing what I hope is a fun, escapist novel. Certainly something that I think we all need after the year or the past 15 months that we've all had. But I'm hoping very much that this book, I think it's the kind of book you want to throw in your bag, head to the beach, the pool, your closet, if that's where you can hide from your children. I've done it before, I don't judge. I think it's fine. And just escape into something that does not mention pandemic or politics, not even for a second.
I love that. And I think we all are looking for that. I mean, summer's here, school is ending, people need an escape, and definitely this book is perfect for that. Will you give us a little summary? Because I know you don't want to have any spoiler alerts.
For sure. Yeah, this book was inspired by my sister, Dana, my relationship with her. And I've wanted to write a sister's book for a really long time. Obviously I love her, but I love so much the way that sisters talk to each other. It's something I've always really been interested in, the way that they will say anything to each other at any point, with no filter whatsoever, even when you might like a filter. It's not available, it's not required, but that was something that I really wanted to have come across on the page of this book. So Where the Grass is Green and the Girls Are Pretty is the story of 2 sisters, Peyton and Sky. They're very different. Peyton is a super high-powered, a type A personality. She's a morning news anchor, really successful one. And she is also obsessed with getting her 17-year-old daughter, Max, into the very best college that she can. Alternately, her sister, Sky, is a little bit more of a do-gooder, interested in nonprofits, is currently a frustrated stay-at-home mom in a very competitive, affluent suburb of New York City called Paradise. But she does not liken it to paradise, and she is looking to make some changes too. So I thought it was just interesting that in this story, they have the one, something comes up, and again, like you said, without giving too much away, today is pub day, which is wild, so I don't imagine a lot of people have had an opportunity to read it yet, but something does happen pretty early on in the book that it'll be the first thing in either of their lives that they won't be able to talk about. And it's going to have ripple effects for a long time to come.
Well, it's this book was very relatable to me in so many ways. I'm the oldest of 4 girls, so I have 3 younger sisters, 4 girls in 5 years. And so I definitely know what you and Dana are talking about. I related to Peyton and Sky in a lot of ways just because of that directness. And it would be hard for me if I had to keep a secret or not be able to tell everything to my sisters.
Yes.
But it's very true. I mean, you just say it like it is. You know, there's no embellishment or flowery talk around it. When it's your sister, this is it. And your dialogue was so well written in the book. You could tell they have a history and that they're very comfortable with each other.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I thought that shorthand was really important, like you said. It's brutal, but it's true.
It is.
It's special. There aren't many people in your life, if any, that you can talk like that to. So I love that. 3 sisters, and bless your mother's heart. 4, and I don't know how she did it.
She's a saint. She's a saint. And it's funny because I don't want to give too much away, but the mother in the book too. And it's funny how the sisters relate to each other, and, you know, they can read their mom, and, you know, the mom gets involved, and well, she's not here. She's in the other room, you know, even though she's sitting right next to her. Type of, I pass the phone over. Luckily, my mom is phenomenal, so I'll tell her everything too. But
I love that.
You know, and the book speaks to so many people. So there's the sister relationship. There's also, you know, the dealing with the working mother, which I loved. And there's so much of a theme of women in your book, and so many of your books too, which I wanted to ask you about. You know, you really write about the powerful woman, you know, the powerful mom. You know, what is it besides being a strong woman yourself that drew you to that and made you feel like this is a topic that I want to write about?
Well, you know, as far as Peyton goes, the one who's the news anchor, like that's a particular profession that I've just always been so intrigued by. The men and women, especially the women who are successful in that industry, are just so impressive. And what they have to go through, how informed they are. I often think, I try to imagine what it would be like. I mean, I could get nervous for a Zoom call. What is it like to be live on national news, literally with millions of people watching, and there's breaking news going in your ear that you are responsible for sort of processing and condensing and relating to millions of people's homes? What must that be like? What kind of personality is that? And it was fun getting to explore that through Peyton. I'm just so intrigued and impressed by people who can do that. That is not anywhere in my skill set in a million years. So I sort of love that idea. And I do think, like you said, one of the themes of this book, and it's probably been one of the themes of quite a few of my previous books, it has been in the book since the Single and Dating in New York City books, has been this balance, this idea of balance, this work-life balance that I think so many women that we all know struggle with. I mean, it's what my friends and I talk about when we're out to dinner. The ironic part is, no matter, and that's something I wanted to show with these 2 sisters too. You've got one who's a stay-at-home mom and she's unhappy, and you've got one who's on top of the world and she's unhappy. And I think that's just a really sort of interesting and tough subject to explore. Women so often feel like they're sort of semi-failing at all things instead of mostly succeeding at all things. And I wanted to kind of look through that through the lens of Peyton and Sky.
No, and it is very interesting because, and without giving too much away too, you know, Sky was the one who did really well in school and was doing great, and she ended up being a mom and struggling to do different things, you know, with the kids and getting fulfilled by that, or even with charities. And then you see Peyton, who was struggling when she was younger to get good grades, and look at, she ended up on top of the world, you know? So, and it's another thing that I can relate to too. For years, I did a TV show in Miami, and used to see, you know, the men would always get the stories, or, you know, have to fight for things, and women do have to work harder. Hopefully that will be changing, but I think we all realize that work-life balance, especially women during the pandemic, you know, when many of us were working at home, doing the Zoom calls, checking homework, you know, dealing with everything. So this book is so relatable to that. And I think it'll be such an enjoyable read, not for only women, but for men too, just to relate to the husband, or to know what we women are going through.
Yes. They're all signing up to hear about that, aren't they? Yes. Well, we're going to tell them.
We are going to tell them. And it's funny too, without giving too much away, you know, I have a son who's graduating from high school. And
congratulations.
Thank you. You know, did the whole college, and this had a lot to do with if I could give it away, the college scandal situation that was going on. So it was very relevant this year, you know, after everything that was ripped from the headlines or in the news lately. So was that something, because it was so newsworthy, that you decided I've got to write about this? I mean, that's it just to pick your subject.
You know, yeah, we to touch on that a little, that's something that interests me. You know, the whole college admission scandal was fascinating from 1,000 different points and perspectives. But I kept asking myself, what would it look like if so-called normal people, I mean, normal's a stretch, but normal people in one of these really hyper-competitive, affluent towns that are really, truthfully, all over America. This is not a New York phenomenon or a Miami phenomenon. This is everywhere now. And what would that look like when you put together these people who are willing to do anything, go to any length, any cost, to give their kid every advantage? And, you know, it's a very black and white situation when you say, we're going to fake pictures of you being on a rowing machine and say you're a rower. Everyone can very clearly say that's immoral and illegal and unethical, and I'm not for it. But there's shades of gray in a lot of the other areas, lots and lots of them, that we've all thought about or employed or okayed or nod, nod, wink, wink for many years now. And I thought, it'd be really interesting to give my characters one of these sort of moral dilemmas of what is crossing the line, what is too much, what does that look like in these towns where there's no limit to what you can do? And that was a really interesting exploration for me to write about. So while it wasn't necessarily based or pulled from the headlines of the college admission scandal per se, I did sort of adjust it to see, like, what would a regular person do if faced with an opportunity to give their kid a real edge?
And you know, that's very interesting, that fine line, right? Because in the book, you kind of mention, you know, the tutor that comes, you know, and tutors your kids for hours, who's some big professor, or, you know, you spend the extra money on college counselors, and, you know, what is the fine line? Or you make a donation to a school. You know, you make a donation maybe because you're a legacy, or, you know, it shouldn't have anything to do with admissions, but does it? You know, so, and you're right, the competitive nature. I mean, we see it, of course, in New York and Miami, but anything to, and it's not even about the one-upping, oh, I've got this special tutor coming to help my son in math on the SAT, but it's because you want them to get ahead, because you're like, I want to give them everything that you possibly can. But where is that line? I mean,
I think the line is 3-year-olds with their own squash coaches. That's my personal line.
Right.
I live in a town where that's normal. That's kind of commonplace. Every kid has a specialty sports coach for every, you know, sport from the time that they're toddlers. So that's, you know, what does that look like? What is that for? Why is that? Is this we can't figure out what else to do? Or is it really an attempt at getting it, you know, already starting to craft the college application? I think so. But it's it goes much deeper than that, and it's kind of at every level. I think you see it starting with the sports when the kids are little, and like you said, the specialty academic subject tutors when they're older, and all of the SAT prep and all the college admissions and all of the all of the like extremely expensive paid volunteer opportunities.
Right.
It's
to another country,
right,
and
to another country and build a home, but it's going to cost you $25,000 to do. You know, is this what we're talking about? Is giving back? So. You know, I thought all of that was really interesting, and I do think that it's something that, in a strange way, like like you said, I don't want to tell too much, but it's fun to see how characters sort of react to that.
And it's interesting to see, when did that all start? I mean, I'm sure when you did your research, you're looking at everything. I mean, that's, you know, that hasn't been in the past 30 years. I mean, I remember when I was applying for school, yeah, you still tutored and do things, but now it's, you've got to get that club coach. You've got to get that, you know, special, that one teacher who you have to drive 2 hours to see to tutor you. It's like, when did that start, and why, you know, why all of a sudden was that happening? Do you think it had something to do with social media? Do you think, you know, with technology these days, with everybody knowing what everybody else is doing, do you think that had something to do with it?
I don't know. It's very hard to say. I think probably a factor of a lot of those different things, but it did. And part of it, maybe, I don't know if I'm like searching for a silver lining here, but, you know, higher education is more accessible today than it was 30 years ago, which is great, but I'm not sure that this hyper competitive atmosphere to get into this, like these tiny numbers of schools that are supposed to be the be all end all and sort of grant someone a magical life with their diploma. I'm not sure that is reality a lot of the time.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So no, and I think that, I mean, gosh, I wish we could talk more in depth about the book, but everybody's going to want to read it after listening to this. I mean, I really couldn't put it down. I think I read this book in 2 days. Well, first because I just got it. So literally at night, I had my light on. My husband's like, shut the light off. I'm like, it's too good. I really
love that.
But it really, you know, you wanted to turn the page. You wanted to see what was happening, especially with the characters. You know, you wrote them so detailed, and you felt like you knew them. And honestly, after having, you know, growing up with 3 other sisters too, you kind of understood what they were going through, right? As a mother, and you know, you would do anything for your child, you know, and even if it's something your child may not want, you know, it's something you're pushing.
Stop me often. Yeah. Hopefully I'll learn something from this, but that doesn't typically.
No, right. We know better. So you've written so many amazing novels, going back to your debut with The Devil Wears Prada. How did you know you wanted to be a writer? Was it something that you were a little kid and you were one of those kids reading and you started taking note? What was it, your passion from a young age?
I mean, I wouldn't say that writing was a passion from a young age, but reading definitely was. That was something that I connected with really, really early. And I remember there were rules in my household sort of invoked about when I was not permitted to read, which I remember it was at the dinner table and in the car driving locally around town. I was expected to look out the window and have conversations in the car. I could not read locally. But other than that, I do remember spending the majority of my childhood reading. And I did always know that I loved writing. I was an English major in college. I did loads of reading and writing there, and that was just an incredible sort of discovery to take it to that level. And when I graduated, I knew I wanted to write, and I couldn't even dream then of actually writing novels. It was really, I explored the magazine world. Obviously, my first job out of school was as Anna Wintour's assistant at Vogue, which is what inspired Prada. But I was open to newspapers or maybe working at a book publisher. I didn't really know what it looked like or what the opportunities were. I knew I wanted to be something with books, magazines, writing. And then, like you said, after The Devil Wears Prada, that sort of, I mean, the very best part of that for me, like the very best part of the whole experience was that it opened this door, it opened this door that allowed me to pursue this career, not something I had really ever expected or planned on or even allowed myself to dream about. And It's been amazing. I feel really lucky for that.
And it really is a dream to be able to be passionate about what you do every day. And you can feel that and you can read that from what you've done with your novels. What type of book were you reading all the time? I mean, it sounded like you were engrossed all the time in a book. Was there a specific genre you read as a child, or?
Well, I read everything Judy Blume, obviously. That was probably the most formative. When I look back at that time, that was really, really formative for me. And Danielle Steele, inappropriately at like age 9. Lots of Danielle Steele, all the Danielle Steele, which I can't believe I read then, but I did. But I loved all of it. I mean, I loved like serial killer stories and CIA stuff. I still have like a very soft spot in my heart for CIA type of books. I love all those. There was like a tell-all last year. Amaryllis Fox wrote, she had been like in the agency for years, and she wrote, I don't know how she got it cleared or if she got it cleared, there was some question about that. But she wrote sort of a tell-all of what it was like, and I could not get my hands on that one fast enough. It was really good. But so kind of wide-ranging, not as much nonfiction these days as I would like. I would love to be able to read more. But when I do kind of have the time to read, I just want to get lost. I want to get lost in the book. For me, it's pretty difficult these days to find like a true flow activity. And reading a great book can still be that for me. So especially pandemic times and now, and when everything's really stressful and strange and uncertain and you can't plan anything more than 6 days in the future, that to me feels great. So reading still offers that.
It's really one thing that you can really plan. You can get into bed every night or take 30 minutes and read. It is something because it's always there at your fingertips. I mean, personally, I read all my books on my phone from Books and Books, which is it's with me. I'm like you. I would get in the car and I would read, or if I don't want to say I'm at a stoplight, but if I'm stuck at a bridge, what am I going to do? I read it on the phone, So, but these days it's amazing because it is at your fingertips, and you can find so many books or hear about different books. I think the book club became even more, prevalent during the pandemic. It was amazing how many people really just picked up a book, or they were Netflixing all the time, but people were really interested. And it was so interesting to be able to discuss a book and sit on Zoom with many, many women and some men, and talk about what they felt. It was an incredible experience because you felt like people were really interested or really dove into it. It wasn't a skimming type of situation. I don't know if you had the same experience.
Yes, no.
You're talking to your sister.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think there's definitely like an increased capacity for deeper conversation. Book clubs have always been, and hopefully always will be, also just like great excuses to bring together friends and have a glass of wine and catch up. And there's always like half the room that hasn't read it, and the other half has been read by them. Like, these are age-old book club qualities. I hope that never changes. But I agree with you. I also did find, when you're on Zoom, and I don't know what it was about it, but there was an increased, I think, capacity for like real conversation about things.
Absolutely. So one question I always like to ask is, because I always have a viewer ask this question, what is your writing routine? Do you have any superstitions? When you write, you have to have, I know your Diet Coke right next to you. Is there anything that you follow when you're writing a novel?
It used to be a lot more, I won't say interesting, but I feel like my writing routine used to be a lot freer and just sort of creative, and I would wait until the the creative urge struck, or I had a great thought, or I would write from 2 in the morning until 8 in the morning and then sleep half the day away. And all of that was like well and good. And then I had a kid and it was just sudden over. And now my entire writing schedule is entirely revolved around their schedule, which having them home a lot of this year made it particularly challenging. As everyone knows, regardless of what you do at home, adding kids that are normally at school is like a whole different ballgame. The snacks, the need for snacks, the lack of self-sufficiency when it comes to snacks was like eye-opening on every level, and something we're really working on in our household right now. But you know, it made it, for sure, the one thing I do really need, the only thing I need is quiet, which is kind of ironic. I'm not a coffee shop writer. I never have been. I'm not really a shared workspace writer. I've tried a lot of writing rooms and I love them when it's time to sit and have coffee in the shared kitchen and chat, but I don't love them when you're actually in the room and everyone else is writing and they're clicking on the keyboards and they're, you know, and you're like, my screen's still empty, and, you know, all of that. The noise of the coffee shop, some idiot's playing his blasting through his headphones, and I just can't. I'm a wreck when it comes to that stuff. So I do need a quiet room, anywhere, anytime my kids are away, but it does have to be quiet. So I would say that's probably the only requirement. Diet Coke is a big bonus.
Me too, for sure. And what are you working on next? I mean, I know you've published books like every couple of years. I mean, you're nonstop. What are you working on next? Would it be a CIA novel? Have you ever tried something?
Oh, that would be fun. That would be fun. I know. I need to join the CIA first. So I'm not sure they'll help me. But I do have an idea. I have begun sketching it out, and I can't tell you more than that, but it is within the general similar genre, not a mystery, not a memoir. So I think it will be, you know, a fun exploration. There'll definitely be some scandal involved, some celebrity, but also like a heavy focus on relationships.
Oh, I love it. Well, relationships are what's important and what we can all write about and relate to, I should say, every single day. And it's funny as we, you know, move more and more out of the pandemic. It'll be interesting to see, you know, how the relationships change. And I think it's a wild topic to think about. Right now, we're seeing all each other on Zoom all the time, and you can say whatever you want. You can just click yourself off when you're in a room together. it'll be interesting. So to come back around to that,
it will be. I mean, yeah, we will have to go out in things other than your tennis skirt and my slippers. Before that started, we discussed the fact that you are wearing a tennis skirt and I am wearing fuzzy slippers right now. We can do that because we're in our homes, but soon this is right. We're going to be forced out into the big bad world of real life. Yeah. And I'm sort of looking forward to it a whole lot and half dreading it a whole lot. Probably how most people are feeling.
You know, and I think so too. It's funny because a lot of people shut the camera off and they're doing their Zoom. They don't put makeup on or do their hair, you know, but now you got to get up, you got to get in your car. I didn't drive my car for a long time.
Yes.
You know, so it's wild, you know, you're like, wait a second, I forgot how to drive. So,
and
you know,
talk to people. I run into someone in a parking lot now and it's like, I don't know quite what we're supposed to say. What have you been doing? What I've been doing? Nothing. Yeah. Let's move along.
Do you hug them? Do you kiss them? What's the, you know, that was the biggest
ask
thing.
Someone if they're vaccinated. It's all new, but I'm hopeful. It does seem as though things are, you know, hopefully starting to turn around and more people will be approaching somewhat more of a normal life.
Exactly. Well, before we get to other questions, when I was setting up, my oldest son said, "Oh, who are you interviewing?" And I told him, and he was, "Let me help you." So he wanted to know. He loved The Devil Wears Prada, which, you know, when we were stuck, I said, "Read this. I'm going to read her next book." My 18-year-old, not my 13-year-old, and he asked me to ask you. He said, "You know, what made her decide to leave her job with Devil Wears Prada and write this book? What was the impetus? What was it?" I mean, just, it was you said you had to do it? Was it something you were thinking about while you were working there?
No, it was all sort of a happy accident, which was really the way it unfolded. I had left Vogue and I had gone to work at Departures magazine, which is like a lifestyle and travel magazine. And it was while I was there, I started taking a writing course at night that had nothing to do with magazines. And it was filled with really interesting, some really successful writers. And we would be working on the same building a story every week, maybe 10 pages a week, and bringing it in and workshopping it. And it was after maybe 6 months or a year of that the teacher of the workshop said, I really think this could be a book. And I was writing about my time at Vogue, roughly give or take, a lot exaggerated, a lot of it not. And it was just, I thought it was just such a funny, wild, weird experience I had. And I was getting great reaction from our little group. And the teacher said, I really think this could be it. And he was really the one who pushed me to pursue it, to kind of look for an agent and see if this could become something. But it didn't start out that way.
Amazing, amazing. And now, like Christina said, they're taking it to the stage. I mean, is that mind-blowing?
It's insane. It's insane. It's insane. I mean, Elton John. I can't even say the word. It's insane. It's so crazy, and they're doing such an amazing job with it. And I've always said, like, I love Broadway as much as the next. I love going. It's so much fun. It's something that especially my mom and my sister and I have shared our whole lives. We love going together, and we know all the lyrics to all of the, you name it, and it's incredible. But it's very different from like knowing how this works from the inside out and knowing what it takes to adapt a book to the stage. It's really incredible. It's a collaborative process. It involves so many different people, all of them insanely talented. Wow. And it's been so cool to get to glimpse that. Like, it's very different also from making a movie, which I don't think I realized. Like, I had kind of grouped it all together. Very different. And I love getting to, be even a tiny part of it and see what they're doing and how they're doing it. And I dream of opening night. I dream of it.
Oh, I can imagine. I mean, everybody's going to want to see it. Everybody's going to want to
hope so.
Kidding me? Forget it. I mean, that's going to be wild. So are you working with Elton John right now? You guys are talking about this, and
he's like right here. I should turn the camera. Yeah, you can see him right here. We're going for mayonnaise after. I've gotten the pleasure and the honor of meeting him and his husband David, and we spent some time together. It was so lovely, and he had read the book and had all of these really bright, incisive, insightful things to say about it, which was so cool. And he has written all of the music for it, which is really, really remarkable. So it's just been incredible to stand on the sidelines and kind of watch all of that unfold. It's been a privilege, really, a career highlight times 1,000.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I mean, I cannot wait. Hopefully Broadway will open up and this will be coming out soon. So, let's jump, if we can, to some of the questions, because there's a bunch here. Let's see what we have. What's the hardest part about writing sibling relationships? That's one of the questions. I can't see the name, but sorry. Good question.
The hardest part. I don't think there was actually a lot that was hard about it. For me, it was really fun, and I loved doing that. I guess it's sort of in the not wanting readers to assume when you write a sister relationship, and this is true, I think, of everything that you write that's close to home, but not wanting anyone to assume that either character is me or my sister. They're really not. I have to say, like, the way in which they speak to each other, the level of closeness, the kinds of things they'll say to each other, the way they support each other, all of that is, but like their specific personality traits are not us. And I wouldn't want anyone ever to think that there's some matchup or some lineup or she's this one and I'm this one. I was always really kind of conscious about that, because it's not it's actually not that way. And, you know, I do worry about that sometimes.
I'm sure. I mean, that's what people assume, right? You're writing about yourself. You're writing about, you know, your family. So,
Right.
No, and another person asked about, okay, this is about the book. Oh, how long? Oh, you know what I heard? I heard you rewrote the first part of this book. Is that true?
Yeah, it is true. I did. I rewrote, for like the first time, I think I threw out almost an entire book. That was this. I just had like it was a similar storyline, but I had a lot of the action in it was being, a lot of the major important decisions were being made by one of the husbands of the two sisters. And that made that, you know, it just in turn created a situation where all, like my two strong female leads and my awesome, quirky, cool 17-year-old third narrator, Max, who's Peyton's daughter, all three of these women were just like reacting to him and to his actions. And it was like a lot of reacting and not a lot of taking responsibility for their own actions. So I just didn't sit well with me. It took me a long time to figure out. I kept going and going. I'm gonna make this work. I'm gonna make this work. I mean, I'm like the type of writer who I don't want to lose like a paragraph. You know, if I have to cut it, I sort of set it aside and save it, and I try to think of a way to bring it back in. I really like the accumulation of words towards a goal, but that I just couldn't get comfortable with it. And it took me a little while to find it, but I think once I found it, it works much better now. And I think people will understand once they read it.
And that leads me to the next question, actually. How long did you actually work on the book then? Since you had to start all over.
Yeah, I've worked on it, you know, there's been like some interruptions and some hiccups along the way, but for about, I would say, you know, about a year and a half, maybe close to 2 years. Everything got a little crazy, obviously, with COVID. So there were delays built into all that. Everything shut down kind of in the middle. So it wasn't as linear a process, I think, as it normally is. It's usually a very clear schedule, and it takes me this long to write a first draft and this many months to edit it. And it didn't work like that this time, but nothing did, you know, that was just how it is.
Nothing. No, definitely a strange time. Well, you have a nice compliment. Somebody says you have a great sense of humor. I love that.
Oh, thank you.
People are so nice. Well, you do. Here's a good one. What do you hope readers take away from your new book? Is there a lesson?
There's not a lesson. There's definitively not a lesson. I am not here to preach to anyone or teach anyone, but what I really hope they will take away is a sense of escape. Whether it's for 5 minutes or 5 hours, whatever time they can carve out for themselves and forget about the rest of this insanity that's going on and just lose themselves in something else, in another story, in another world. And I hope that they'll also, you know, if not see a part of themselves in one of my characters, like you said, like find something that they can relate to in their world too. That's always, since the time I was little, that's something I've always felt is one of the most amazing parts of reading. I mean, I still am in awe when I read something and the author, you know, it feels like the author's kind of crawled into my head and given words to what I'm thinking. If I could ever do that for someone else, it would be incredibly cool. So that
you're doing it. You're doing it.
Yeah.
You're definitely doing it. No, honestly, because it's, and like you said, you're not like the characters in the book, but I think sometimes I think about the sisters in the book too, and there's some things you really can relate to, and you're like, gosh, I feel the same way, you know, even though you're not the same, especially going through what I'm going through with the college process, or have been going through too, it is relatable. And so that's why I feel like anybody could pick up this specific book and relate to your characters somehow, whatever the situation may be.
I hope so.
Definitely doing that. Okay, this is a good question. Would you ever consider writing a book centered around a male protagonist?
Well, no. Not that I wouldn't consider it. I think this is sort of the closest I came was with this effort. And I didn't set out to do it that way. That wasn't my intention, but it just ended up feeling like it wasn't really working. I think that is definitely room in the future, and I'm always a never say never person, where a male character obviously could play like a much more important role, but I love writing for women, about women, by women. That's just, it's who I am, it's what I know, and I think it would be really challenging, and maybe not personally in a good way for me, of trying to put myself in a male persona and convey what that's like. I'm not sure. Never say never, but I love writing these books right now.
And they're amazing. They're amazing. This Anna, let's see what she wrote. She said, "You're such an inspiration. What is your best advice for an aspiring writer?" She said she's currently at over 38,000 words. So
that's incredible. That's absolutely incredible. And Anna, I would say she's already doing it, because my advice to aspiring writers is the least sexy advice I could ever give anyone. But it is prioritizing time to actually put words on the paper. That is something that in today's world and all of our lives, with jobs and kids and families and social stuff and volunteer, all of the things that we all try to balance every day, it's nearly impossible to say, well, I don't have a book contract, or I haven't sold this, or I'm not doing this professionally, or it may work or it may not work, and still giving yourself permission, really mandating that you carve out a certain amount of time every week. I think every day is never going to happen. I can barely brush my teeth every day, but like actually carving out time every week and setting that aside to make small increments of progress. I mean, Anna has 38,000 words already. She's a third of the way there. That's incredible.
It is incredible.
I think that kind of discipline and consistency is what gets it done. Not like the brilliant flashes of inspiration, or the sort of like half-assed, this is going to be great, I'm going to work on it like crazy for a week and then never look at it again. You know, the like slow, plodding, unsexy, disciplined commitment is what does it, I think.
And that's really a life lesson, right, Lauren? I mean, really, if you practice, you work hard, you set your routine in life, that's the way to go. So, I mean, people do think writers sometimes just have that flash of brilliance, and write the whole book. But I mean, I've spoken to a lot of authors now. A lot of them, it's their daytime job. You know, they set a time. Some of them do set a time every day, and they're like, not every day, 5 days a week, but it's specific times that they do it. So I thought that was really interesting, because a lot of people don't know that or don't think that.
Right. I set a word count every day. When I'm on deadline, I have to hit a minimum, and sometimes it takes 2 hours and sometimes it takes 8 hours, but I can't get up until I've hit my word count for the day. And there's no other way to be accountable. You know, there's no one, when your deadline is 18 months out and nobody's checking in on you, there needs to be an accountability. So whether it's a certain amount of time every day, or a certain amount of words or pages, or however you like to kind of calculate it, I think it's super important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, this is interesting. They want to know a little bit about the title. How'd you come up with the title?
The title was a fun one, obviously inspired by / stolen by Guns N' Roses song. And I love all of these like 80s bands so very much. But love. But I was on, another Zoom with my college friends when it came time to figure out a title for this book. And we were just having drinks on Zoom and throwing out all different kinds of titles. And if I could even tell you half of them right now, they were so ridiculous and inappropriate on every level. But we were cracking ourselves up. And then we just moved into song titles. And I mean, we wrote down hundreds of them. You'd be amazed how many would work really well for a book title.
I'm sure.
This was a favorite because it really sort of conjures up the image of this type of town that I write about. And obviously it's from Paradise City, and I named the town Paradise in the book. It's not paradise, but that's what we call it. And it sort of all just worked together.
That was amazing, amazing. And I loved on the, if people see the book too, the earring.
Yes. A little blue, a little blue. Yes. I know my daughter was looking at the book at the jacket the other day. She's 10. My son and daughter, he's 9, she's 10, and they were looking at it and they were saying, like, is there another hidden clue in here? Is that the one clue on the cover, or is there something else I'm missing? And I thought, oh, you got to read it. But I know, I agree. I like that handcuff earring. I'm kind of in the market for one now.
I love it. No, I think it's amazing. I mean, everything about the book, like I said, I read it very, very quickly. It was just one of those books that you just couldn't put down. And, you know, and these days, sometimes it's hard to find that kind of book, you know, that you just really, especially now, we want that escape. And I loved it. When I got it at my doorstep, I was like, yay, I get to read this. Wow. You're an incredible writer. This was an incredible interview. Thank you for taking the time to do this for us today. And we really loved having you. And everybody, go get Lauren's book. You will just love it for the summer. This is so perfect. Books and Books. Very easy.
I just want to say,
next time, I can't wait to be back at Books and Books. Love Miami, love the store, and it will be.
We can't wait to see you. We can't wait to see you in person, and hopefully at Miami Book Fair. You never know. I mean, we're planning a hybrid of Miami Book Fair, so maybe you'll come
in November again.
In November, the week right before Thanksgiving. So happy book birthday.
Thank you. And thank you for being here. Everyone who's watching tonight and help me. It's pub day today. It's like the best day ever. And
your books are already shipping out to you as we speak. So you'll soon be getting them on your doorstep. And I just want to thank everyone who's joining us from everywhere. And thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Steph. What a great conversation. Again, happy birthday. I hope happy book birthday, and I hope we'll see you soon in Miami.
Good. Thank you, everyone.
Take good care.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.